Hey, good morning. It's me, Pastor Amanda, with Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion. And we are looking at John, and we're going to look at chapter 13 today. And let's just kind of dive in this morning. So, chapter 13 actually is probably one of my most favorite understandings of who Jesus is. So we find out, like, John gets to the last week of Jesus's life faster than anybody. Here we are in chapter 13. But what happens for John is that Jesus's most important teachings then happen through this last week. But anyways, as we start on chapter 13, we find that the festival of Passover is happening. And it says that Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And this is really important because it marks his actions. That it's important that you know this is all an act of love. And what happens next is that Jesus washes the disciples' feet. Now, back then, this was a really interesting scenario because only servants would do this work. You would not have anybody, you wouldn't have a visitor come into your house. You yourself as the host would never do this. This was something that was servants' work. And so this was a sign that Jesus was doing something very out of the ordinary. And so he goes and he starts washing the disciples' feet, and then he comes to Simon Peter. Simon Peter always has something to say. So, he's like, no, I won't let you wash my feet. And then Jesus says, unless I wash you, you have no share with me. And then so, of course, Simon Peter goes, well, then wash all of me. Wash my head, wash my body, and then Jesus is like, no, just, you're clean. You're fine. It's just your feet. Like, this is, you don't need to be entirely, it's just part of you that is dirty. And it's this recognition of what servanthood really is. Jesus really sets what does servant leadership look like to us and for us. What does love look like? Jesus didn't just go along with whatever his whim was for Simon Peter. It was, here, no, I'm just going to wash your feet. I'm not going to wash all of you. And he sets this example of what it means to love, what it means to serve. You notice that Jesus didn't do everything. Like, he's like, I'm not about to do everything for you. I'm not going to enable you, but I'm going to do what I came to do, and that is that. And this is his way of showing love. And it's also important that Jesus sets out that he goes, I'm setting an example to you right now as to how you are to be a leader. You are to do it by serving one another, by caring one another. And that he says, in verse 20, very truly, I tell you, whoever receives one whom I send receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. So this is our connection to God. Our connection to God is through this loving one another, by receiving one another, and working together. So then Jesus goes ahead. So he's done all of this, and he's aware that Judas is going to betray him in the midst of all that. And I think that's really interesting, that Jesus, knowing what's going to happen to him, he still loves on Judas. He washes his feet. He gives him communion. He's very aware that this is going to happen, and he knows who is going to do it. We find that out in the next few verses, that he knows exactly who's going to betray him. But Jesus doesn't treat him any differently. And if we think about some of the stuff that happens in churches these days, how often do we like hold things against people, or, we're not going to treat them the way we want to because we don't like the way they were. And I mean, but Jesus sets the example of how we're supposed to treat even those who hurt us along the way. So I find that to be really interesting. And then, of course, Jesus goes on to talk about, I leave you a new commandment. So, of course, they've had the 10 commandments all their lives. But now he says, here is your new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. Now, this isn't the ooey gooey love. This is the agape love. This is the washing the feet of the disciples love. But at the same time, it's the honest, hard truth at times. It's a love that, will point us to that we are truly Jesus' disciples, because we're able to follow his commandments, his teachings. We're able to follow his example. And that's really tough sometimes. Sometimes we like to say we have Jesus in our heart, but we don't want Jesus in our actions. And so that's what kind of is interesting. So then at the very end of this chapter here this morning, we find that Simon Peter again goes, I want to go where you go. And Jesus is like, you can't follow me. Jesus is going to go to the cross and be resurrected. And but Peter is like, no, I want to go with you. And Jesus goes, you're going to deny me 3 times before this evening gets over with. And it's one of those moments where we realize no matter how faithful we are, at some point in time, all of us are going to falter. All of us think we want one thing and it's going to turn out another. But I think what's the hope in all of this is that we still know that what happens at the cross is forgiveness and reconciliation. But we cannot be so self-assured in ourselves that we know everything. Simon Peter was like, I'm going to follow you to the death, and yet he couldn't. And so we recognize that sometimes our words come back and bite us at times. But thankfully, Jesus loves us and forgives us and wants us just to keep trying again. And that offers me a lot of hope every time I fall off the horse. Got to get back on track. We all have those experiences. So that's our devotion for this morning. Thanks for joining me, Pastor Amanda, with Hope, Faith, and Joy. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.